My boyfriend is demanding that I cut contact with my brother because he's convinced that I'm sleeping with him, and I honestly could not be more disgusted. Here's what happened. For some context, my brother and I are not blood related. His biological mom was my mom's best friend, but she passed away at childbirth, and my mom decided to adopt my brother. I was 4 months old at the time, so I've only ever known my brother as my brother my entire life. My brother is also gay. He is out of the closet, and he is in a long-term relationship with his high school sweetheart. So I've been dating my boyfriend for 9 months now. When I met my current boyfriend, I was flatmates with my brother and my brother-in-law. Since the beginning of our relationship, my boyfriend expressed that he didn't like the idea that I shared an apartment with 2 men. And when he said this, I was honestly just upset, mostly because I was uncomfortable with his implications. But I tried to reassure him that he has nothing to worry about. I would remind him constantly that one of the men is my brother and the other is my brother-in-law, and both of them are gay. But he still kept saying that he didn't like it, no matter what I said. Among other things, my boyfriend doesn't like that I have weekly movie nights with my brother. My brother and I have had weekly movie nights since I can remember. When my brother-in-law moved in with us, we included him into our movie nights as well. I even offered to my boyfriend to include him in our movie nights too, but lo and behold, he refused and tried to claim that it was weird and that it sounded like we were having some kind of weekly dates with my brother. It only got worse when he found out my brother and I are not related by blood. That day we got into a horrible fight. In that fight, he tried to claim that I have lied to him about my brother being my brother. For the record, I never lied to him. My brother is my brother, and the way he became my brother is absolutely valid. And I also wasn't hiding that we are not blood siblings. It really never crossed my mind to mention it, as it literally has no relevance to me. That day, my boyfriend screamed horrible things to me. He said things about my brother, claiming that we weren't actually siblings in the first place, and that he suspected that we were spending quality time together, if you know what I mean. Yeah, absolutely disgusting. The accusation disgusted me so much that I didn't talk to my boyfriend for a few days. Finally, we eventually made up, and he asked me to move in with him. So I ended up doing just that, even if it was just a bit too soon, because at that point, we had only been dating for about 5 months. My brother and our parents expressed concerns as well, but I didn't want to have another fight. Besides, I felt like if I refused and insisted in continuing to be flatmates with my brother, my boyfriend would then cherry pick this and take this as confirmation that I'm supposedly sleeping with my brother, which again, that's disgusting. Now, ever since I moved in with my boyfriend, it has been drama non-stop. We have had fight after fight every time I try to hang out with my brother. My boyfriend acts as if I'm cheating on him with my brother. And again, that's so disgusting. So last weekend, my brother and his boyfriend moved to a smaller flat, and this is all because I'm no longer living with them. And the other one they were in was too large, and the rent was too high for just 2 people. And as a celebration for their new flat, they had a party. My boyfriend didn't want me to go, but I went anyways. I didn't enjoy the party because I kept being anxious about how my boyfriend will react when I get home. And lo and behold, when I came back, we got into another fight. My boyfriend told me that I either cut contact with my brother or this is the end of our relationship. And I'm honestly just appalled. I'm not cutting contact with my brother, and I'm not open for negotiations on that. So I'm really not sure what to do here. Is there any kind of way to convince my boyfriend that I'm not in some kind of weird relationship with my brother? Or are there other compromises that can be made? Or is this truly the end of our relationship? What should I do? I've got to be honest, the fact that you're even considering that this relationship should continue is baffling to me. The claims that your boyfriend is making about you and your brother are not only disgusting, but they're just disturbing. I mean, how can he honestly come to this conclusion? The writing is on the wall. There is literally nothing going on between the two of you. And the fact that you want to try and make this work is crazy to me. In my opinion, you should get out and get out now. Get rid of this scumbag boyfriend and maybe move back in with your brother. See if there's any kind of space where you can move back in, even just for a little bit. This is so disturbing and it's absolutely disgusting. The original poster goes on to say that they feel guilty because they moved into their boyfriend's house, which then caused their brother as well as their boyfriend to move into a smaller apartment. And they feel like like this is their fault, to which I say, no, this is the boyfriend's fault. The boyfriend is crazy. You cannot ignore these red flags. This is something that needs to be addressed. And this is not your fault. He is controlling, he's being manipulative, and he's trying to isolate you. So in my opinion, it's time to get out, and it's time to get out now. My boyfriend lied to me saying that he wanted to get married, and now I honestly don't know what to do. My partner is my rock, and I'm his. Literally, he tells me that all the time, including yesterday. We've been together for 5 years and have a truly wonderful relationship. We're always talking, laughing, we're comfortable with one another, we're able to communicate healthily, even when we disagree. After surviving a terrible childhood and struggling with unhealthy romantic relationships in the past, the fact that we love each other in a respectful and secure and profoundly healthy way is truly my biggest blessing, and I wake up every day so happy and grateful for him. He is an incredible man with so much drive, intelligence, kindness, as well as countless gifts to give to the world. About a year and a half ago, it came up for the first time that we saw ourselves getting married one day. It was such a beautiful moment, and it rocked my world to have been vulnerable to say those words in the first place, as well as to have him say it back to me. Since then, it's been something incredibly happy that I get to hold in my heart and look forward to. The subject has come up sporadically since then, but I haven't wanted to push it too far, since we are young and it is very much an eventually thing. Both of our parents are divorced, and his come from money. He got a lot of strong advice growing up not to marry young, as well as to protect his assets, while also being taught that getting married is also a financial decision that you have to be ready for, which is something I never really thought of before. Nevertheless, the thought makes me happy, and we often daydream about the future that we'll build together. We would love to have a little house in New Hampshire, and we hope to buy that as well as some dogs and some chickens. These are conversations he participates in as well, and brings them up all the time. I want to be able to casually talk about the marriage aspect too. I want to have the moment where I go to bed and he says something like, I can't wait to marry you, or you're the love of my life. But for some reason recently, whenever the subject has come up, he's clammed up and made it feel very serious. This culminated maybe 2 months ago with a really weird conversation in which I sensed he might not have processed what marriage really means in the way that I had, and that he really wasn't ready to be talking about it in this way. I told him that I would never want him to feel like he's forced into this, and that this is just something that makes me happy to think about, as well as to talk about. I said to him that I love him, and that I would wait as long as he needs, but that I firmly didn't want to bring up the subject again until he was comfortable to discuss it. I wanted to relieve the pressure on him, and I haven't mentioned it since. Well, yesterday we spent a really lovely day getting lunch and hiking with my family. They live far away, so we don't see them very often. My sister and her fiance were there as well, and of course there was a little bit of light conversation about their upcoming wedding. My boyfriend was his usual friendly and easygoing self. I noticed he seemed quiet on the way home and later that evening, so I asked if he was worried about work, but he just said that he was tired from a long day of traveling. I made him a drink, I kissed him on the forehead, just like I always do, and I promised that we could do whatever he wanted to relax that night. I just did what I normally do when I can tell he's stressed out. I tried to show empathy, as well as just to take care of him. But then, as I'm making dinner, he says something that is absolutely devastating to me. He came over to me crying and said spending time with that engaged couple, and even barely talking about their wedding, had sent him into a panic, and he didn't know if he could ever see himself getting married. And at this point, I was completely blindsided. I tried to parse what he was saying, but it was like my brain was stuck. Eventually, he had been locking himself in his office at work all week crying about this. I kept asking him why he would say he wanted to marry me if he didn't, but he basically said that he was lying, that he wanted to give me what he knew I wanted to make me happy. All I could do at that moment was stare at him with an open mouth. I kept trying to pinpoint if he was saying to me that he didn't think he was ready to get married for a long time, or if he just didn't want to get married, period. And I really didn't think he knew himself. I don't think he has put any kind of mature thought into marriage at all. It was like talking to a scared child. He kept saying stuff about not knowing what his career will lead to, or if he'll have the money to support both of us. And when he said that, I just said, we're a partnership. You wanted to be with me yesterday. You want to be with me today. Do you want to be with me tomorrow? At this point, he said yes. And so I said, well, then what else matters? We have a life and we love each other, and we'll take on the future together, whatever it may be. Sitting now in the aftermath, I can say that I'm completely devastated. He left for his mother's house, and I don't know when he'll be home. My body feels ill and I just can't sleep. And it's all because of this conversation. We have always had rock solid confidence that we can trust each other and be vulnerable around each other, as well as just being our full authentic selves without any hesitation or fear of judgment. engagement. We share everything together and we are best friends. He even said that over and over as he sobbed and told me that he loved me and that he didn't want to get married. Hours ago, I had the most beautiful and solid relationship in the world, and now I don't know if we're going to break up. I'm honestly reeling from all this. I feel like I've been punched in the side over and over again. It feels like the earth is falling out from underneath me, and I honestly don't know what to do. This is a really unfortunate circumstance, but I think you said it best. You guys have a fantastic relationship. You can talk around each other, you can be your authentic selves, and you can basically say what's on your mind. And that's exactly what your boyfriend did. He said that he's not ready to get married and that he doesn't want to get married. He was honest, emotional, and vulnerable, and he opened up to you. I mean, how much more open can you possibly get than your boyfriend sharing all of this information with you? But I do think you're right. I think your boyfriend has not taken marriage seriously, and he was just kind of going along with whatever you were saying just to make you happy. So hopefully these future discussions go well, because it sounds like you have a good relationship between the two of you. And hopefully one day you both can make that step and have some kind of positive future together. My boyfriend's brother is cheating on his new wife, and I honestly don't know what to do. So as the title suggests, I just found out my boyfriend's brother has been cheating on his new wife for the first time in 8 months of their marriage. We will call my boyfriend's brother Lane and his wife Becky. These are not their real names. I know some of you may be thinking that maybe I should just mind my own business or stay in my lane, but let me explain the whole story before forming an opinion. As some background information, Lane is active duty military and stationed in another state. He came back from an 8-month-long deployment a few days ago. He received orders out of the country prior to his deployment. Him and Becky have been together for 8 years and got married a week before his deployment to ensure that she could go overseas with him. While on his deployment, Becky came back to our home state to visit family and friends. She chose to stay with my boyfriend's family due to unrelated personal issues with her own family. During this time, Becky and I became close for the first time. She opened up to me about issues her and Lane have been having prior to his deployment and while he's been away. Apparently, Lane and Becky did not want to get married, but were pressured by family that it was the smart decision to make and that they could have an actual wedding at a later date. Becky vocalized how this really bothered her due to her religious beliefs around marriage. However, she and Lane came to the decision together that it was the right thing to do. During the deployment, Becky and Lane began to fight more and more, all the way up until the point that he said he wanted to get a divorce. She had told me that he stated that he didn't see her going anywhere in life and felt that all she cared about was working at bars. She had been working at mainly bars recently, but said that this was because of the tips that she made. Becky noticed that Lane blew through $3,000 in a matter of weeks, and he kept saying that it was because he had been out at bars, which is honestly such a terrible double standard. Becky also noticed that Lane had been texting this girl on his crew that he claimed to not like her. I told her that it seemed a little fishy to me and suggested that he might be having some kind of affair. Becky then said that this was something that had never crossed her mind because her and Lane had always had an open and honest relationship with little trust issues, if any, which is honestly very true when it comes to the two of them. She believed that it was depression from being away from everyone. After not hearing from Lane for a few weeks, he messaged her stating that he would fix things when he got back. Fast forward to today, and he is back, and they haven't had a chance to sit down and talk yet. Yesterday, I mentioned to my boyfriend that Lane had added me on TikTok. My boyfriend is incredibly anti-TikTok, and he asked who Lane was following. So I checked, and I noticed that the only girls that he had followed were me and one other girl that Becky had said she had been concerned about. I asked my boyfriend what was up with that, and he just avoided the question. Later, I asked him again about this, saying that I had a feeling his brother had been cheating. Personally, I know the signs all too well. My boyfriend finally confessed that Lane hadn't been going to bars on deployment, but instead, he had been renting hotel rooms to spend some quality time with girls, if you know what I mean. My boyfriend told me that it originally started as an only once in a while kind of thing, but it progressed into a full-blown relationship. The woman that Lane is seeing has already cut things off with her fiance, and Lane plans on ending things with Becky now that he's back. This news absolutely shocked me because Lane and Becky had always seemed like the perfect couple, as well as Lane not really coming off as the cheating type. Additionally, my boyfriend told me that about 5 years ago, Becky cheated on Lane, but Lane and Becky had gotten past it, and things seemed to be pretty healthy between the two of them. Lane has also mentioned every once in a while that he wishes he had more dating experience, since Lane and Becky have been together since high school. I've listened to my boyfriend and Lane talk a few times since he's been back, and it doesn't seem like Lane has any intentions of actually leaving Becky. I think he may have realized that the girl on deployment was really living out a fantasy and Becky is the real deal. However, I think it's wrong to throw this big of a secret to the side and pretend like it didn't happen, especially after I have witnessed the emotional wreck Becky has been in the last few months. She went several days and nights without eating or sleeping and truly wants to fix things with Lane. I know it's not my relationship and not my place to destroy a marriage. However, Becky has become a great friend and someone I've been able to confide in lately. I know if I was in her shoes, I would want to know. My boyfriend threatened to leave me if I said anything, but my morals are getting to me. What should I do? Before the original poster even begins to approach talking to Becky about this subject matter, they legitimately need to look at their own relationship. Their boyfriend just gave him an ultimatum. If you talk to Becky about my brother having an affair, I'm going to leave you. And that is honestly incredibly worrying to me. The fact that he would say that is absolutely disgusting. This original poster's boyfriend is literally enabling his brother into cheating. And that is absolutely disgusting. And that's a massive red flag they have to be aware of. But even along with that, in my opinion, if I was in Becky's shoes, I would want to know if my spouse was cheating on me. It's bad enough that this marriage was forced upon them and everybody around them pressured them into getting married in the first place. But now Becky is literally kept in the dark and they don't know the secret plans that Lane is currently participating in of going behind her back and cheating on her. And most of all, your boyfriend knew about all of this and he still said nothing. So it's clear that you two have very different morals and values. So I think at this point, it's time to take a good hard look at your relationship because your boyfriend is threatening to leave you over his brother cheating on your friend. And personally, that's not something I would ever take sitting down. My girlfriend hates my best friend despite the fact that she's never met them. And I'm afraid of telling her about wanting to visit this friend out of fear that she will retaliate in some way. And at this point, I don't know what to do. My girlfriend by the name of Sarah, that's not her real name, has been with me for 9 years. I've known my best friend Alice for 13 years, but she lives in England while I live in America, so we pretty much never see each other. My friends and I are planning a trip to France and Belgium next year, so I think since I'm already on that side of the pond, I might as well take a couple days at the end of the trip to see Alice. I go on vacations with this group of friends every 3 to 4 years, ever since we graduated high school, and my girlfriend has no interest in joining us, so that has never really been a problem. But here's the problem. I'm scared to tell her of my plans to see Alice because she just automatically hates her and wanted me to cut her out of my life for a long time now. However, this is not a request I've been able to respect because I honestly think it's stupid. My girlfriend and Alice have never met. They've never spoken. They've never even been on the same continent as each other. This has been an issue in the first couple of years in our relationship. For some reason, my girlfriend feels justified to hate a person that she's never met. She told me that she hates her so much that if she ever visited me in the States that she would attack her, which is really disturbing. She used to ask me every day if Alice texted me, and she always asked to read our conversations. In fact, when Alice followed me on Instagram, my girlfriend didn't talk to me for 2 days. And to this day, I still don't know how she knew that Alice had followed me. She watched as I deleted and blocked Alice's number from my phone and Instagram, and that was 6 or 7 years ago. But obviously, my best friend is going to notice that I'm not responding to her text messages, so she sent me an email which wasn't blocked. We eventually got back to texting regularly because I thought it was absolutely ridiculous to cut her off for no reason. These days, I can say for sure that my girlfriend has calmed down a lot, but when it comes to Alice, it's a little bit different. I have no idea if she knows that Alice and I are still talking to each other, or if she even thinks about her in the first place at all, because we haven't discussed this in over 5 years. This all just comes from a place of jealousy for my girlfriend, despite the fact that Alice is gay, and she is not attracted to me. But my girlfriend is so convinced that Alice is in love with me that she just won't accept that as an excuse. I have never had romantic feelings towards Alice, and while my girlfriend says that she believes me, she says that nothing will convince her that Alice doesn't have feelings for me, even though nothing has happened in the 13 years to suggest that this is true. So I guess my question is this: is there a way to bring up the topic of my visit to England gently? Should I even bother to spare her feelings? Or am I just bracing myself for an absolute firestorm? What should I do? It sounds like your girlfriend is incredibly toxic. I mean, your girlfriend is behaving unreasonably, and she's being incredibly stupid. People can have friends, like it's not that big of a deal. And it sounds like Alice is just not interested in you in the way that your girlfriend is assuming. This all genuinely feels like an overreaction, and this just just does not sound healthy. So if anything, maybe it's time to have a conversation with your girlfriend and say that you should be allowed to have best friends, especially when those best friends are not attracted to you. Because this is honestly only going to keep coming up, as it does not sound like any kind of discussion is going to convince your girlfriend that this friendship is actually not that bad. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And the next time you live stream, use the cream of the crop music. Search Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your next stream.